Good evening, everyone. My name is Sam, and on behalf of Book Soup, I'd like to thank everyone for joining us for our next virtual event with Andria Luu and Valerie Luu here to discuss their new book, Chinatown Pretty, which features beautiful portraits and heartwarming stories of trend-setting seniors across 6 different Chinatowns. We'll be hosting more virtual events in the near future, and you can learn more about them on our website by signing up for our email newsletter, as well as following us on social media at Book Soup. Our next event is scheduled for tomorrow at the same time, 6 p.m., with John B. Judas in conversation with Peter Dreher to discuss The Socialist Awakening, What's Different Now About the Left. Tonight's event will end with a Q&A or be sprinkled throughout, so please get your questions ready. And to submit a question, please use the Ask a Question button at the bottom of the screen. And if you see a question on the list that you'd like for our speakers to answer, you can click the like button and it'll bump it up in the queue. And we will try to answer as many questions as time will allow. Also, please support Book Soup and our authors tonight by purchasing a copy of tonight's featured book, which you can do by clicking the green purchase button at the bottom of the viewer screen. The link will direct you to our website, and it won't interrupt it'll open in a new window, so it won't interrupt the viewing. So you can do that throughout, or you can do it at the end, or whenever you like. And with that said, let me introduce our guest speakers for this evening. Valerie Luu is a writer and one half of the Vietnamese pop-up restaurant Rice Paper Scissors. She lives in San Francisco. And Andria Luu is a freelance photographer whose work has been featured in the San Francisco Chronicle, the New York Times, and Wired. She lives in Berkeley. So we're so excited to have Andria and Valerie, and without further ado, I'm going to turn the camera over to them. So please enjoy the presentation. Thank you both for joining us.
Hi everyone. I'm Valerie, and I'm the writer behind Chinatown Pretty.
And I'm Andria Luu, the photographer.
And tonight we're coming in live from a Chinatown institution. We're here at the Golden Gate Fortune Cookie Factory, located at Ross Alley, one of the most magical places in SF Chinatown.
You might hear some of the alleyway noise and chatter as we have our talk tonight, actually.
And that's kind of why we're here, because we wanted the sights, the sounds, the delicious smells of San Francisco Chinatown.
And this is such an iconic institution. It's been around for 58 years. And Kevin was telling us, the owner was telling us, they make 10,000 fresh cookies every day.
And his mom, Nancy, was just with us a few minutes ago. You'll see her right up here. She's immortalized in that mural. But yeah, she still works here pretty much every day. And she was just flipping through the book a minute ago. And she said she knows a lot of people. These are a lot of her friends and neighbors. She knows Monta, our cover person. But yeah, since Book Soup is based in LA, we want to kick things off by just doing a little reading from one of our LA people. All right. So yeah, in this book, we went to a few different Chinatowns across North America. We started out in the Bay Area, in San Francisco and Oakland, went to New York, Chicago, Vancouver, and of course, Los Angeles, Chinatown. So we'll be talking about the Jungs. So the Jungs. We met the Jungs at the Alpine Recreation Center, where Mrs. Jung, 86, teaches Luk Tung Kun at 8 o'clock every morning. She's been practicing for 40 years and teaching for the last 20 plus years. They both wore bright yellow sweatsuits, custom made in Hong Kong, printed with Luk Tung Kun, an exercise program consisting of 36 movements that promote blood circulation and muscle strength. If you live near Chinatown, you might have seen it in the park. Get the blood flowing. The Jungs have owned their sweatsuits for decades, but it looks like they just got them yesterday. The bright blue lettering and a small mock turtleneck collar gave them some flair, as if they didn't have enough. When it's a happy day or a party, I'll wear it, said Mrs. Jung. Mrs. Jung told me that her husband suffered a stroke a few years ago. So while she teaches, he'll sit and read or walk around the park. Very slowly, she added. Looking at Mr. Jung makes you go, aw. The staff baseball cap, the cane, and the rainbow umbrella walking sticks. The 50s style glasses that sit slightly cocked to one side. Mr. Jung said he met his wife through his cousin. We asked how long they dated before they got married. There was no dating back then, he said. You just get married. I wish it was that easy. He left Hong Kong to come to the United States first, and she joined him 2 years later in New York. We asked him about his 69 years of marriage to Mrs. Jung. How often do you celebrate, we asked. He laughed, every 10 years. So that's the Jungs.
All right, I think we're gonna move on to some Q&A. So let's see. Feel free to add any questions on the chat bar.
Yeah, we met the Jungs at the Alpine Rec Center, which is a popular park in the heart of LA Chinatown. And her exercise group meets every morning, bright and early, like 7:30, 8 a.m. And you see these exercise groups everywhere. Here in San Francisco, Chinatown, you'll see them in Washington Square Park, 8 a.m., right near Mama's, which is a brunch place. And when I lived in Chinatown, I was lucky enough to live for 6 months. I would join them sometimes, and they're very welcoming. I haven't seen them since lockdown, but I imagine and I hope that they're still out there. They're always kind of spaced apart anyway.
Yeah, they're very good at the social distancing. Yeah, that's another thing we admire about the seniors, not only their style, but they lead really independent lives. So they're very good city dwellers, so they use a lot of the city services like public transportation. They exercise in the park. The park is basically an extension of their living room.
They were like Barry's boot camp before Barry's boot camp.
They buy local. They go grocery shopping every morning for fresh produce. So they're really kind of the ultimate city dwellers in a lot of ways.
During exercise classes, they'll use like parking meters as balance beams. So like outdoor bar class for free.
We have a question. How did we meet? How did Valerie and I meet? We met, oh nice. We met about 10 years ago through the food world. So Valerie was hosting various food events and dinners and pop-up events, and I was photographing them. And so, yeah, that's how we got connected.
And then I was lucky to live here for 6 months, and we would hang out here in Chinatown on dim sum dates. And that's when Andrea and I kind of realized we had this like reaction whenever we would see the grandmas and grandpas in Chinatown. Our kind of hearts would stop and we'll be like, did you see that? Did you see that outfit? And so this project was kind of born of like, who are these people and where did they get their shoes? And then 6 years later, here we are. Let's see what the next question is. So someone asked, were there any Chinatowns that stuck with you specifically, or do you have a favorite and why?
Well, San Francisco is where we started the project. So I think in a lot of ways that's the favorite. It's so special because the architecture is really unique. It was actually designed after the earthquake, specifically to sort of draw in tourists. And so it has this like really special architecture that you won't see in China, but you also is not quite American. And so it's just very specifically, I think, Chinatown. And yeah, that's the backdrop for our San Francisco chapter. And the book overall is just sort of a love letter to Chinatowns. And San Francisco is, I think, where it started.
And I think what's really special about San Francisco Chinatown is there's a lot of microclimates in the city. I mean, one of the rules of living here is you never leave home without a jacket. And sometimes in the case of Chinatown seniors, you don't leave home without 2 or 3 jackets. So it's all about layering. And because of those layers, you see like just more fabric, more color, more clothes that are vintage or like 30 years old mixed in with like Supreme hats and Nike shoes. And actually a friend of mine sent me a photo of his grandpa wearing a Supreme hat. So it's a thing. I don't know how the grandparents get their hands on it, but they do. But other than San Francisco Chinatown, I really loved Vancouver. My step-grandma lives in Burnaby, so I would spend time there. Usually in the summer, and we had a great time shooting in Vancouver.
Yeah, that was a Chinatown that we met a lot of really great locals who who organize to help really preserve the culture of Vancouver Chinatown, like June and Doris Chow. And what we noticed there is that it's a really an intergenerational Chinatown. Like the young generation is authentically friends with the older generation, and they are activists together, and they really rally around the neighborhood and trying to prevent gentrification and just maintaining the neighborhood aspect of the area.
And this was exemplified in their hot and noisy mahjong nights, where they would take over Kiefer Plaza in Vancouver Chinatown, and they would set up mahjong tables, and seniors would bus in from the senior homes, and then you would have like blue-haired, tattooed Chinese Canadians, you know, shuffling tiles with Chinatown seniors. And you don't need a shared language to do that. Just like as long as you know the rules of the game, you're okay. We love seeing that. That exemplify the kind of the relationship between young and old in Vancouver Chinatown.
Yeah, we have some photos in the book of that event, actually. I don't know if you can see it. It was just such a lovely, like, summer evening activity to see like a group of old and young people playing mahjong together. I hope that we could do that, something like that in the Bay Area, actually.
Yeah. And hopefully in due time could all shuffle mahjong tiles again. We have another question. Are there any stories in the book that make you emotional, for better or worse? I think there were a few tears in the making of this book and in interviewing people. You know, I think one that stands out for me, and this is like happy tears, but there was this woman named Winky that we nicknamed Winky, the poet, who we met in Vancouver Chinatown. She couldn't hear. And she had a relative that visited her at the senior home that she lived in. It was like her mother, her sister-in-laws, like it was a very distant family friend. But he would come and see her and communicate with her through like an Etch-a-Sketch pad, where he would write in Chinese and then she would respond back. And she'd written this poem about, you know, the building of Hong Kong. It was a very beautiful poem that he had kept on a napkin so he can remind her that like he knows this poem. But she would wink a lot. She would kind of alternate between eyes. And there was just so much spunk and joy and personality that was like communicated between all of us without words. And we would like hold hands and just like wink at each other. And then he read the poem, which caused me to tear up. And at the end of the hangout, she said something and her friend translated. She said, you know, what was that? I can't
No
hear.
matter how long you talk, I can't hear you. So this is Winky, or we affectionately call her Winky. Yeah, she was like a real joker. Like I remember taking her portrait and she just wouldn't stop like winking. She really was like playing with me. It's just so hilarious. But yeah, she's also just had like an amazing face. I just thought that she looked amazing. So, and you know, and that's her poem that is written down on a napkin that her friend keeps.
Yeah, and that my stepdad and his friends helped translate for us, and it's in the book. But yeah, I think just like meeting people, being able to connect, hold hands, and then just all of us expressing gratitude for having met each other was really emotional and really beautiful, and something we missed during this time. Another question is, do all of the places in a sense feel like home now that you've explored their communities so thoroughly? Did you make a lot of new friends that you still talk to now?
Yeah, we keep in touch with a good handful of the subjects. A lot of the project is quite ephemeral because we meet people just in passing, like when they're about to get on a bus. That's like a common place that we meet people, is at the bus stop. So once the bus comes, they're just like,
It's like hi and bye.
Yeah, they're out of there. But yeah, if we can, we try to stay in touch. After we meet them, if I can get a portrait, and after we have them send their release, we'll send them a physical copy. We'll send them physical prints as a thank you. And so sometimes I include my phone number on there. Sometimes they write back or call, and that's really sweet. And yeah, we've done house visits, follow-up house visits for longer interviews, and we'll stop in pre-COVID times, of course, to see how they're doing when we're in Chinatown.
And Chinatowns at large make me feel like I'm at home. You know, we spent like so many hours here. Like the way we work is we usually go out for 3 hours at a time. So we'll meet up at like 9 a.m. For prime time grocery shopping hour, which is when Stockton Street's the busiest of like grandmas and grandpas trying to find the best produce. So we just do laps. And I think just being in Chinatown brings me a lot of joy and a lot of like a sense of peace.
Yeah. We run into a lot of the people in the book frequently too, just out on the street. So we'll try to say hi if we see them.
We have a technical question. What kind of camera do you use, Andrea? Also, what hardware, tools, and apps do you use for writing, Valerie?
Right. So photography-wise, I think most of the book was shot with either a Canon 5D Mark III and a Canon 5D Mark IV, so probably both of those. And then in terms of lenses, probably a 24-70 and a 50. I think both of those are ones I often have on me.
And I'm a big fan of the reporter's notebook and a pen. Mm-hmm. So a lot of jotting down notes. We usually work with an interpreter because neither of us speak Cantonese or Toisanese. And I do pen and paper just because it's like low key. Mm-hmm. I did invest in a recorder I never used. And I think it's like kind of clunky and a little intimidating for myself and probably for the person I'm talking to. So we keep it pretty simple.
Yeah, we try to keep it low key. Usually it's already 3 of us when we go out and about shooting. So I think I basically just keep my camera in my bag until it's time for the portrait because we just don't want to intimidate anyone or overwhelm them when we come up to them. So it's already like a few people. So
that's Kevin, that's the owner. And friends.
Hello. So we try to be pretty low key about it.
Yeah. So another question is, how do people initially react when you approach them and their sense of style? Do you want to walk them through our approach?
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, so as Valerie mentioned, we like to set aside like a few hours to make laps around Chinatown. And we'll try to schedule usually in the morning to catch seniors when they're out grocery shopping, which is a daily habit for a lot of them, or on their way back from exercise class. And if we see someone that we want to talk to, we'll kind of know when we see them. We're kind of just like give a look to each other and it's like, okay, let's try to go talk to them.
Sometimes there's a lot of running. Like, how, like, you know, in San Francisco, Chinatown, we have like the 4-way crosswalk. So like whenever I hear the sound of the crosswalk going off, like I get triggered. Like I start to like look, you know. So sometimes it's like us trying to chase down someone or wait for them patiently as they're finishing up their grocery shopping in a store.
It's good to also approach, for those interested in this kind of street photography, to approach from the front, not to sneak up from behind.
You don't want to like scare someone.
And we basically just smile and say hi. And I think we try to compliment bomb them. So I think like really being interested in if an article of clothing sticks out to us. And that's the thing about the style that we like, is that it really tells a story. So, you know, there's a lot of handmade knit hats and clothes that look like they have history to them. So it's easy to ask them about an article of clothing. And that's just like an easy kind of question they can answer, like, oh, I knit this, or my daughter gave it to me. And I think that sets the tone for the conversation. It's just kind of being curious and complimentary.
Yeah, so it's a bit of a dance. So the getting people to stop is really the hardest part, probably, because most people have their city blinders on and they're just trying to get through their grocery shopping. Yeah. But once we're able to get them to stop, it's like ask them about their clothes and then how they're spending their day. A big part of our project is celebrating kind of the active lives that seniors live in Chinatown. A lot of people are like in their 80s and still going out every day and seeing their friends and getting their groceries. And then from there, after we talk to them, then we'll ask them for a picture. And it's really important for us to kind of get them on board and to get their consent. So after we get a thumbs up from them, Andria will take photos. So it's like kind of a tag team.
Yeah, it's definitely a tag team. And I don't think we've mentioned our success rate with getting photographs. So I think most people can tell Chinatown seniors are a pretty tricky demographic to photograph. I think culturally, generationally, with the language barriers, there's just a lot barriers to stop and chat, and especially to get a picture. So our general success rate in terms of getting a picture is about 10%. Although we found in Chicago and Vancouver, the folks were more open to that. So it was more 80-90% in those cities.
But yeah, a lot of time we're met with thank you, which means no.
Yeah.
So another question is, what big or subtle differences did you notice between various Chinatowns?
That's a good question. Big differences.
In New York, I feel like people are a little more city.
Yeah.
Like a little busier.
They're very busy. There's, and then style-wise, the clothing's maybe a bit darker. Kind of what you would expect from Manhattan, I think.
I think black puffy
Dr.
jackets
Jungs.
when I think of New York Chinatown.
Yeah, a lot of like bigger overcoats. But we went there. We went to shoot in the spring mostly. So it was more like rain and some slightly warmer weather, I think. And then, as Valerie mentioned before, San Francisco and California, folks really just dress more colorfully. I think that's something we noticed. And in San Francisco, especially with all the layers because of our microclimates and kind of the fog, it just creates the layers, really just add to the outfit. And that's something I think is special to the Bay Area Chinatowns.
When LA Chinatown, I remembered umbrellas.
Yeah.
To keep out the sun because it's a bit sunnier. And I feel like I saw like a few more short sleeve shirts, more than I would usually.
Right. And in Chicago, a small observation that we had was, it's called the Windy City. So seniors would have the usual bucket hats or hats on, but they would add their own chin strap. So there'd be kind of like a little custom ribbon or a little tie, I think, so that the hats won't blow away. We asked them, and that was the reason.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But in terms of demographics, most people came from the same area, which is like southern China, Hong Kong, Guangzhou, and with similar stories. Came here because of family. Worked. A lot of them worked really difficult jobs in factories or worked as seamstresses. So a lot of the stories were similar across all Chinatowns. We have another question, which is, what was the process like for you both in terms of collaborating, writing, and photography? It seems like a lot of fun. I think that a lot of the collaboration happens in like the production, like pre-production. Like we try to sometimes coordinate with residential buildings or senior homes to do scheduled photo shoots. We work with a lot of nonprofits like Chinatown Community Development Center and Youth Collaborative for Chinatown, who are part of the community. So they know a lot of people and they'll connect us with seniors sometimes. So I think we both work in like trying to make it happen. And then there's a lot of magic in like what happens on the streets of Chinatowns. And then from there, like Andria does the photography, I do the writing. But yeah, I think there's a lot of fun of just being on the street together.
Yeah.
Yeah. And like, it's wild that, we met 100+ people. Actually more than that. We've met hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people and feel really lucky to like have 100 and something people in this collection.
This is really a project I think that would be hard to do alone. It's just, not only because there's writing and photo involved, but just kind of having that energy to create the project I think it's really, we couldn't have done it like solo either way. So
it's too much rejection for one person to take on. So I think it's like enjoying each other's
and the rejection.
Yeah, enjoying each other's company and friendship. We've known for each other for years before we started this. And taking dim sum breaks and like laughing and enjoying the process. Like having someone to share it with, I think is really important too.
Yeah.
All right. Most memorable moments. And they wrote, nothing beats finding Ms. Jade shoes, right?
No.
Yeah, I would say Manta or Jade Shoes, who's the person on the cover, is definitely one of the most memorable moments. When I lived in Chinatown, I would sit at a cafe on the corner of Pacific and Columbus. So that's kind of where North Beach and financial district in Chinatown kind of like, kind of converge. And there was this woman that would get off the bus often while I was writing and had these Jade shoes on. And I would scan up and realize it was someone in their like 70s or 80s, not someone that was like my age, which I would have expected based on like how she looked from the bottom up. And then Andrew and I finally met her when we did our first outing, one of our first outings for this project. And she became someone that we saw regularly and like friends with. And she came to our show openings at 41 Ross, which is in the same magical alleyway as the Fortune Cookie Company. And Nancy, who is one of the owners here, says she knows her. Yeah.
She, when we gave her the book today, she was like, oh yeah, I know her.
I know her.
For so many years.
Yeah.
So, and then this particular photo on the cover was, we had a photo exhibit at Ross Alley, which we put at 41 Ross, which is an art space right across the alleyway from where we are now, that we mentioned. And folks from the nonprofit CCDC, Chinatown Community Development Center, had gone to pick her up in a minivan, red carpet style, and then brought her to the opening. And so, this was that photo was taken in Ross Alley, where we are now. And she just had this gorgeous velour, like velvet jacket and pantsuit on. And that was the moment that's on the cover. And we have a photo, like a phone photo of her next to her picture inside the gallery space, also wearing that, but with the photo next to the big photo of her that we took on the street when we first met her. And that was a really nice memory too.
So Monta's definitely one of my favorites. Someone asked, how did you decide who got to be on the cover?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's just because of the story and just like, how can you beat this like radiant smile and this bob and her overall like presence?
Yeah.
But for the back cover, this is Buck Chu. Do you want to talk about how you met Buck?
Yeah, actually this photo was the day I met Buck. Let me take off this jacket. Let's see. What was I doing? Okay. I was with Kathy Lamb, who worked at Chinatown Community Development Center, and we had just gone to a big banquet, actually, a luncheon for the Tenants Association. And this is when we were preparing for our first show that they sponsored for us. So we just were walking through Portsmouth Square, and there he was, Buck. So this is near the playground at Portsmouth Square in San Francisco, which is that park that's above the parking lot. That's kind of the park where everyone gathers to play card games, and there's like Chinese opera and exercising. So if you've been to San Francisco Chinatown, you probably know it. And he was wearing this wonderful tie, and he told us he has like a huge collection of ties. And actually what he does is he would carry on him a photo album of just like family and photos of him from like living in Hong Kong from decades ago, which was really cool because he shared that with us when we met him. And also on most subsequent meetings on the street, he would also share the album with us. But we noticed that the prints I would send over, he would put that in the photo album. And
so we became part of the story. Not really. Our picture became part of his photo album. And it's like one of those 90s photo albums you get after you develop your pictures with like the thin plastic sleeves. But he always had it on him.
Yeah.
But yeah, we like that we got to do another person. So we get the male-female duo. And then someone else asked, what are some of your favorite outfits from the book?
Oh, man.
I'm going to bust out with Helen.
Helen, okay.
Okay,
which
Helen in Vancouver.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Andria and I took a minute. We like traveled to Vancouver together. We took a minute to kind of like soak in Chinatown. separately. So I went to just like to feel it out, to observe the sights and sounds. And then I got a text from Andria. She's like, "Come here now. Come on the street." And then I saw her taking pictures of Helen, whose outfit was so unique. You know, these like glasses, the bowler cap, the lanyard. And I love this photo. We kind of joked that it's like kind of like a Beastie Boys kind of like look.
Yeah. It's like in your face style. She got really close to the camera.
But she did say she doesn't leave the house very often.
Yeah.
So we were really, she's like, the doctor says I have to leave the house to keep it moving. So we're really lucky to meet her.
Yeah. I remember I was just taking some B-roll of like an apothecary shop, and then I just turned around and, you know, I kind of gasped and I got really like nervous because I was like, oh my gosh, she's so stylish and so cool looking. I just was like hoping she would say yes. And she actually spoke English and was cool with taking a picture and signing, giving us her info so we could send her a print. So hopefully she got it. We weren't able to get a hold of her after that encounter.
What about you?
Yeah, Helen's pretty special. And I do love, a lot of times we just, as Valerie mentioned, we'll do portrait days at housing, at apartments, or we'll hold a senior portrait day at 41 Ross or something to meet people. But
it's a great way to meet people and also for them to get professional photos too.
As an exchange, and there's some trust there. So that's a great way to meet people. But also sometimes you just turn a corner. Maybe you were planning to go the other way, and it's just this a magical thing where you just see like an amazing outfit. So I think in Chicago, let me see if I can find it.
There's a lot of serendipity involved in this, which is something I really miss during this time. You know, when we do this project, it's like just random encounters with people, and sometimes you leave holding hands and being like, I'm so glad I met you. And that's kind of one of the people that we met in Chicago.
Yeah, she was waiting at the bus stop. It was kind of a drizzly day, and Mrs. May here, she just had like the most amazing smile. She's wearing like a Burberry bucket hat and just has like all these prints and beautiful colors. And then you got to see the socks. They're like, they have like a puppy dog on them. So yeah, when we just kind of happened upon her, and she has the signature chin strap on her bucket hat in Chicago. And yeah, that was just like, sometimes you just meet people that are like really delight the eyes when you're least expecting it, and that she was someone for me.
I mean, we have this rule, which is always check the socks. Sometimes the outfit's already amazing, but it gets even more amazing when you see like what's printed on their socks.
Yeah, Valerie's been seeing some good socks around SF Chinatown. This one mystery woman
with the McDonald's socks. Another question is, how has your own style changed or been influenced by the people you've met? I mean, I think this is a really big thing for me because I wore all black through my 20s. And after a few years of doing this project, I realized like how much joy it brought to me seeing random socks and seeing color and seeing this boldness and this joyfulness that was, oh yeah. I'm also
speaking of random socks, or not so random.
But yeah, it became really inspiring. I was like, oh, I want to do that for myself, like bring a little joy in my day. And that's what I ask myself now when I buy clothes. I'm like, is this bringing me joy? Is this a joyful article of clothing? And then my step-grandmother, Anna Lee, who's in the book, in the Vancouver chapter, had these beautiful tailor-made clothes from Hong Kong that she's kept in perfect condition for like 30 plus years. And when she passed away this last February, I inherited a lot of her clothes, some of which I wear. I wear like half her clothes. My wardrobe is like half her clothes. And I'm wearing her dress tonight.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a perfect kind of like Indian summer dress.
Yeah, and all of her clothes like fit you perfectly too. It's really cool to see. I also wore a lot of black as a photographer, so my wardrobe had a lot of black. But I've always also been drawn to vintage clothes and color, and I love like thrifting. So actually, this shirt is a $2. I love to tell people the price. It's a $2 shirt from Oakland Chinatown. It was like a lot of Chinatown corner stores have kind of dead stock vintage, which is new, never been worn vintage. That probably has just been in boxes for years. Like there's a great souvenir shop down the street that has these like vintage SF tourist shirts from the 80s that we stop by a lot. But yeah, this is from Chinatown, Oakland. And yeah, I just, I love kind of pairing. I don't think about matching very much anymore. I think that's something I've learned is there's a lot of fun in just kind of pairing things together. And as a result, I rarely wear the same thing twice, I think, because I don't know. Things don't have to match. Anything can go with anything.
Anything goes.
Yeah.
Much more freeing. Next question is, what has been the most surprising thing you've learned through this process?
Good questions.
I think it's been really great just to connect around seniors and around Chinatown and about fashion. So, right, our project hits a few different notes. So I feel really fortunate that it's able to speak to different people, whether it's because they love Chinatown, or they love fashion, or they have love for their grandparents, regardless of what their ethnicity is.
Yeah, and I think doing this project has, at first, there's definitely a curiosity, and I think that it was because I knew there was something deeper, but the project quickly became more about also the backstories and the stories that the people we photographed would tell us, not just about their style. And also doing this project, I've learned so much about Chinatowns and the history of why they're here, and also all of the people who really work so hard on the ground every day to preserve Chinatowns and ensure that they're a livable neighborhood. So some of the nonprofits we mentioned, like Chinatown CDC in San Francisco and CCED in LA, they're doing amazing work to make sure that Chinatowns can remain for future generations. And so that's been a really wonderful surprise during the project, is learning more about them and learning more about why Chinatowns are still here. It's because of their work.
Yeah, I think when we started, it was like, where did you get your shoes? Was like the inspiration.
Yeah.
And now there's a mission, which is like, how can we be part of the Chinatowns we want to see exist?
Which is why we wanted to broadcast from Chinatown, and specifically a really special place.
An institution.
Yeah.
Because, you don't have to miss Chinatown. I think that like during quarantine, a lot of us didn't go places, but Chinatowns are still here, right? You could do your essential shopping here. You can go out and get some fortune cookies. I know we could use a little more fortune and luck in our lives right now. It's uncertain, sometimes you could find some solace or some advice in a fortune cookie. So yeah, I think a big part of it's just like, how do you want to engage with Chinatown? Is it like volunteering with a nonprofit? Is it trying to shop here more often? Is it trying to buy your clothes here, your groceries, or eating here? So another question is, now that we're speaking about Chinatowns or the future of them, a person asked, what do you think the picture of Chinatown will look like 10 years from now when these seniors start, disappearing or leaving for whatever reasons, or, getting older? Is there another generation coming up? Who will be there?
Yeah, I think definitely there'll be, it is sort of the reality of our project is that a lot of the people we talk to are super seniors. They're over 85, over 90. So the generations, they pass on, but there's definitely a lot of people who still live in Chinatown beyond the seniors. The seniors definitely add so much to the neighborhood because they can live independently here. But I think there's still a lot of vibrancy and people of all ages still living in Chinatown. and oftentimes so many generations in one room. So I think that can keep going as long as, the livability of the neighborhood is maintained.
Yeah, and I think what we learned from doing research for this book is that Chinatown has been a landing pad for immigrants since it started, right? It was a place where Chinese immigrants could shop, eat, be with each other, and
Without knowing English.
And it still continues to be that for people who immigrate here.
Yeah. And I know it's a tricky question because there's Chinatowns all over North America, and I know that certain Chinatowns have seen a lot more changes than others, and then I think a lot of vibrant Chinatowns have since sort of been absorbed into whatever city they were in. So hopefully we can continue to fight for the Chinatowns.
All right, so we're more of a fashion question, which is, what are the best spots to thrift or shop? I'm gonna say Chinatown. So nowadays, I make visits here just so I could find a really cool sun hat. They have extra wide brimmed
Bonnets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or quilted vests, or I've been really into house slippers because no shoes in the house. So there's a lot of great house slippers in Chinatown, different colors. I found one that said Supreme the other day.
No E at the end?
No E in the middle.
Did you get that?
No, it was too small.
I think Chinatown Style is pretty in right now, I think, if you go to any major retailer. So you can come straight to the source, we both have what we call easy pants, which are basically elastic waisted pants, and you see them on grandmas all the time. Actually, oftentimes we'll stop to photograph someone and we're wearing the same pants. That's not uncommon.
And I stocked up in LA Chinatown.
Yeah.
I think in Saigon Plaza it's called.
Yeah.
But it's this crinkly fabric front pleated elastic pant.
Yeah. And I wear those, we got some Chinatown pants for $10 in Vancouver, and those are the pants I wear the most. They're
Go-to pants.
Yeah. I think the sun protection, and there's just a lot of great stuff. A lot of fun socks.
Yeah, fun socks, colorful neon socks. We have the easy pants. That's how we bond with grandma sometimes. We'll both pull at our elastic waist, hey, so easy. All right. I think another question is, what is your next project?
Goodness.
I think for me, it's just enjoying this book. This is 6 years in the making.
And we're really lucky that we finished photographing and traveling for this project last year, because we really wouldn't be able to continue it in the same way now. Approaching and talking to people on the street is just a little different. While Chinatown here has been very busy and quite vibrant and lots of people out shopping, I think approaching seniors on the street is just, we'll wait till things calm down, I think, before we interview and photograph people.
But we hope, once quarantines are lifted, we can meet you all in person and have in-person events again and be able to hear your feedback in real life. Yeah, that's what I look forward to. I think that's all the questions we have.
Do we answer what inspired the creation of the book? Right. So we started the project. It was initially an article we had pitched to a local online magazine about San Francisco called The Bold Italic, and that came out in 2014. And we weren't going to continue the project, but then Chinatown CDC, the nonprofit we've been mentioning, approached us to do a photo show and to help them kind of drum up excitement about Chinatown fashion and Chinatown shopping. And so we did that project, and we photographed a lot more people, talked to a lot more people for that photo exhibit, and we decided to keep it going and started Instagram. And so I think the book seems like a natural evolution. It's something that I didn't think that we could do when we after the initial article came out, I was telling Valerie that the article was so hard to get even like the 6 people. It took so many hours in Chinatown. I just was thinking, oh, there's like, how could we ever have enough to fill a book? And it took many years, but and yeah, going to 6 different cities, but we managed to get talk to over 100 people for the book.
Another question is, how can we bridge the gap between the Americanized Asians and the more immigrated traditional Asians? I think just common interests. Like some people really love food.
Mm-hmm.
I think some people really love Chinatown. So whether you're more Americanized or someone that's been here longer or is more close to Asian culture, I think it's like, yeah, volunteering, breaking bread together.
Yeah. Volunteering. I mean, coming to Chinatown is kind of the perfect thing, right? Because it's not Asia, but it's not quite America. It's that in-between space. And so that's where you'll find kind of that commonality literally in Chinatown. So, but I think what Valerie's saying, like volunteering, getting involved, and there's so many opportunities for volunteering in Chinatown.
I think right now, especially, there's initiatives like in New York called Welcome to Chinatown, where they're promoting Chinatown businesses and like using graphic design skills to make really cool merch that will support these businesses. And something similar is happening in Oakland.
Mm-hmm. What is the name of that?
Good Eats.
Oh yeah, there's Good Eats, which is an initiative that helped get Oakland and Chinatown restaurants going with their website, so you could order directly from them instead of having to go through something like Caviar or DoorDash. So they would get more profits, which are really important at this time. And so you can, I think it's called Good Eats with a Z at the end. And so they have an awesome website and Instagram.
Yeah, and I think it's just like whatever skills or interests you have, if there's a way to lend that to supporting Chinatown or Chinatown businesses.
There's cleanup days and
making food.
Mm-hmm.
That
for
can,
seniors.
Yeah, for seniors.
Yeah.
Food pantry. I have friends volunteering at food pantries in Chinatown. So yeah, different ways to engage. And at the very least, come to the Fortune Cookie Factory or to restaurants. And then we have just a general question, which is who or what inspired you to do photography and writing? When this book came out, I thought about me at different ages. And I thought about me at like 9 years old, writing on that like paper you write on in like elementary school with the really big lines.
Oh yeah.
I feel like I probably wrote, I want to be an author someday. And so it feels really good to like have that come true. I think I've always liked journalism and writing, but I did yearbook in high school. So that's kind of where my love for journalism started.
Yeah. And with me for photography, I think I've always been really observative. So, and visual. So I think photography is sort of this perfect medium for that. And I'm not a writer. I'm not great at writing. So I think it's really a great form of visual communication and my preferred form of communication a lot of times. So yeah, photography's been a really good fit for me.
I feel the same way about photography. I'm like DSLR, like no thanks. Like I don't ISO, who? I could do iPhone photography. That's about it. But I think that might be all the questions we have.
Perfect timing.
Perfect timing, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out tonight.
Thank you to Book Soup. Thank you to Golden Gate Fortune Cookie Factory.
Open 9 to 5 every day. This is Kevin, the owner. Say hi to everybody. But
Thanks
anyway,
for hosting us.
Yeah, thank you. And like long live Chinatowns and the wonderful people that live in them.
See you in Chinatown.
Thank you both so much for joining us. I don't know if I'm still tiny over here, but There we go. Thank you both so much for joining us. Thank you everyone for watching us. Please support independent bookstores and Chinatown, all the Chinatowns, anyone that you live near. I'm from San Francisco, so that's the one that I know well. And thank you so much. It's a beautiful book, and please purchase at the green button below. Thank you, Valerie. Thank you, Andrea. And everyone have a wonderful night and rest of your week.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.